Hey Mark, ready for another deep dive into the tech world?
Jenny, you know I'm always ready. Especially when we're talking about something this ambitious. India's push for its own mobile operating system, it's a big undertaking.
Right? It's like Minister Vaishnaw just threw down this challenge to TCS, Infosys, and Wipro. Basically, build us a homegrown alternative to Android and iOS. That takes some serious guts.
It does, and it's not just talk, from what I gather. He's promising full government support, which, changes things. This isn't some small side project. It's a asterisk national times priority.
Exactly. It's part of this whole shift, right? India wants to be a asterisk product times nation, not just a service provider. And a mobile OS, that's like a foundational piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so BharOS. This is the project incubated at IIT Madras, right? It's kind of the leading example for this whole initiative, would you say?
Yeah, and what's really interesting is their approach, times no preloaded apps. That's a sharp contrast to what we're used to.
It's a big difference. Think about it. Fewer preloaded apps mean fewer potential vulnerabilities, right? Less bloatware, more control for the user. It's a strong privacy angle.
And they're pushing these Nota patches, native over-the-air updates, so quicker security fixes, which is always a positive.
But, and here's the big but, building an app ecosystem from scratch? That's, the Everest of this whole project. We're talking about competing with the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. That's intense.
It's a huge task. I mean, how do you convince developers to build for a brand new platform when they already have these established giants?
That's where the government support comes in, I think. Incentives, maybe even mandates for government devices. They'll need to, pull out all the stops.
And it's not like this hasn't been tried before. Remember BharOS Linux? It had its successes, but widespread adoption is the key, and that's tough.
Exactly. It highlights the need for not just a good OS, but also a thriving community times it. Developers, users, the whole 9 yards.
So let's talk about some of these other government initiatives. This GPU portal with 14,000 GPUs. That's a lot of processing power, even for big AI projects.
It is. And it's geared towards AI, right? Which makes sense. An OS these days, especially one trying to compete, needs to be smart. Needs those AI capabilities.
They're saying 80% of startups in India are AI-powered. That's a substantial talent pool to tap into for building AI features into this new OS.
Imagine an OS that's deeply integrated with AI, personalized experiences, predictive features, maybe even AI-powered security. That could be a real differentiator. Something to set it apart.
They are also talking about training 1 million people in rural areas. That is a large commitment. Do you think this commitment will filter down to a better digital experience overall?
I do. You have a wider audience, not just geographically, but you are also training them on the fundamental digital building blocks of the country's economy. That's bound to have a ripple effect.
And what about the ethical side of things? We always have to consider that. Digital sovereignty is great, but
there's the risk of centralization, right? And compatibility. Will this OS play nice with the apps people already use and, love?
That's a asterisk huge times question. You can't just cut yourself off from the global app ecosystem. People want their WhatsApp, their Instagram, whatever, their everyday essentials.
And then there's the economic impact. If this succeeds, Trio, it significantly impacts India's tech industry. Less reliance on foreign tech, more jobs, more innovation. It's a whole new ballgame.
It ties into PM Modi's vision, right? This T5 nations by 2047 goal. It's all about technological advancement, moving up the global ladder.
And they're even talking about developing indigenous chipsets. That's the next level. Controlling the hardware and times the software. That's vertical integration.
It's a whole ecosystem play. It's ambitious, it's challenging, but, the potential payoff is, enormous.
It's going to be fascinating to watch this unfold. Will they pull it off? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a story we'll definitely be following.
I'm wondering, what do our listeners think? Should India double down on creating its own mobile OS? Or would they be better off, perhaps, working within the existing global tech framework? It's a tricky balance, isn't it?
It is. And that's a great question for a poll, Jenny. We should ask our listeners, Indigenous OS or leverage existing platforms? Let's see what they have to say.
Ooh, I like that. And maybe we can have a discussion segment too, something like, what features would you want in a homegrown mobile OS? Get them thinking about the practicalities.
Perfect. Get them involved, get them thinking. And, we could even dedicate a future episode to answering listener questions about this whole India Tech initiative. There's so much to unpack.
I'm also thinking about the counter-arguments. We need to be fair and address those, like, how will BharOS attract enough developers? That's a legitimate concern.
Definitely. And what about the potential economic downsides if India becomes reliant on its own OS and sort of isolates itself from the global scene? That could backfire.
Or the privacy aspects. More centralized control could potentially create challenges. It is almost like a double-edged sword.
It is. Lots of questions around that. We will add it to our discussion list. Well, this has been quite a discussion, hasn't it? Thanks for breaking it all down with me, Jenny. Always a pleasure exploring these tech frontiers with you.
The pleasure's all mine, Mark. Until next time.